Now let's move on to 5 players in the transfer portal that are trending toward Big Ten teams. Now, this is not me predicting that they will go to Big Ten teams, or that even that these Big Ten teams will land them or anything like that, or that they're going to commit this weekend or anything. But this is just me saying that these teams are kind of gaining some momentum with some of the better players in the transfer portal right now. Some of them are top tier players. Some of them are maybe some depth pieces to be added for other teams, but some players that Big Ten teams are having some success with here. So first, we will start with Rob Wright, the guard out of BYU. Here we go. Bring that up. Apologize, I hit the wrong button there. The guard out of BYU, Rob Wright the third. Of course, he starts his career at Baylor with Scott Drew, now on the move once again, and it looks like Ohio State is a serious contender to land one of the top point guards, if not the top point guard, depending on where you look at in the portal. They had a Zoom call on Wednesday that reportedly went very well. Jake Diebler is close with Wright's former coach, Scott Drew. He was coached by Scott Drew's younger brother, Bryce Drew, at Valparaiso, and Jake Diebler has looked at Scott Drew as a bit of a mentor type of figure for him. And as much as Jake Diebler loves going after Ohio kids in the portal, pretty much if an Ohio kid goes into the portal, you can almost guarantee that Jake Diebler is at least going to reach out to him. He's reached out to a number of guys that might be depth pieces and stuff like that could come into the program next season. But even with that happening, Jake Diebler recognizes that this would be kind of the final piece to their starting lineup a little bit. You'd have a little bit of a weakness at the 5 position if that happened, but this would be a huge piece for the Ohio State Buckeyes. They could have Rob Wright, Junie Mobley, who has NBA potential. He's going to test NBA waters this season. Don't think he's going to go to the NBA, but he has the potential to go there. A little bit of a smaller backcourt, both of them 6'1", but still a good backcourt, good shooters would be able to make that happen. On top of that, Anthony Thompson, the 5-star freshman, top 5 player in the country, he would come in. He's most likely going to be a lottery pick, if not a lottery, top 20 type of pick next season in the NBA draft. He has a whole lot of skill. You bring back Amari Bynum to most likely play the 4 position for you. And then you're just looking at that 5 position and who is there. Well, the guy who's there is Joshua Ojuwana, I believe is how you pronounce it. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. I don't believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm almost certain I pronounced it wrong. I apologize, but Ojuwana, I think is how it is. But anyway, he also came from Baylor last season. He had to sit out the entire year with an injury, but he was somebody who was a good force for Baylor 2 seasons ago, played well for them, and actually played with it was actually on the team with Rob Wright there. So no, not yeah, it would be 2 seasons ago because that was when he was a freshman and Josh was there. So good situation there. Could possibly get some of those Baylor players to be in the starting lineup here. And even if that, is something that maybe Josh is not as dominant of a 5 as, some people might think he should be, Ivan Nagovin has been developing well for the Ohio State Buckeyes throughout the years. I'm not going to try to sit up here and say that he's going to be a star center or anything like that in the Big Ten. He's not. But he has learned how to play in the Big Ten. He has learned how to use his body better than he has in the past. And I think with his continued development, there could be something there. And I think you could rely on him as a backup 5. Obviously, injuries would be a concern there, but he could be a backup 5 for you out there. Wright would be somebody that would essentially wipe away almost all of Ohio State's remaining roster budget for next season. If you were to get Rob Wright, you would have a really talented starting lineup, and you would have some depth pieces that you could have coming off the bench and stuff. But Ohio State would have a similar issue to what they've had the past 2 years is, virtually no bench, having a lot in your starters. But if you get an injury or something like that, you're going to have a whole lot of trouble because you just don't have the depth on the team. And it looks like Ohio State is okay with that because they've said they are going to be paying less players this season. Not everybody on the Ohio State roster is even going to get paid this next season, which is not uncommon. There's other schools out there that do that, but it would be uncommon for Ohio State. So would not be surprised if Ohio State gets a visit this weekend from Rob Wright. Be on the lookout for that. Be on the message boards if you're an Ohio State fan. It could happen. We'll see what happens, but it would be a huge addition for Ohio State if they can make it happen. The next one is Andrew McKeever, the center out of St. Mary's. Andrew McKeever, 7'2", going to be a junior next season, and 2 Big Ten teams that are going after him are Iowa and Purdue. Now, Purdue is involved with the St. Mary's transfer center, Andrew McKeever. As we talked about on this show, Iowa wants to go after the 5 position more. They felt like that was something that was lacking last season. They're most likely going to lose Alvaro Figueres because it sounds like, according to a report by Pete Nakos, that he's not going to be getting the same, the same financials that he got last year. He'd actually be taking a pay cut to come back to Iowa. But after he hit that shot in the NCAA tournament, a lot of teams are willing to go out there and pay for a guy like that. And so even though he could come back and play the 4 this season, probably be more effective as the 4, looks like he won't be coming back. But obviously we'll see. Everybody's saying he's not coming back, but he still hasn't gone into the portal yet. So it's always very interesting to me. Or maybe you're watching this by now and he went into the portal early this morning and you're like, JR, you're already in the portal. Well, that makes sense that they would go after Andrew McKeever. Then also Purdue showing a lot of interest here. The 7-3 McKeever, or 7-2 McKeever, I apologize. He averaged, now he was one of the best. I'll get to his averages in a second. He is one of the best rebounders in the country this past season. Also a very good rim protector. He didn't have a whole lot of blocks, but if you watch him play, he was somebody that did contest a whole lot of shots and make some things difficult there. It's kind of the opposite of like a Zvonimir Visic. Like Zvonimir Visic, he has high block totals, so it looks like he's, this extraordinary rim protector. And don't get me wrong, he's a good defender, but I think his defense is oftentimes overvalued to what it actually is, because when he doesn't get a block, he's typically not contesting as much. He got better this season. McKeever doesn't get a ton of blocks, but he does contest a whole lot of shots, and he does make it difficult for teams down there. The issue is that in 5 quad 1 games, he did only average 4.2 points. Does struggle on the offensive end. He had 8.8 rebounds, which is good, 1.4 assists, 1.2 turnovers, 0.4 blocks, and shooting 26% from the field and 47% from the line in those quad 1 games. Now, you might be saying, well, JR, why would Iowa and Purdue want him? What we're finding out through looking at some of this stuff with the transfer portal is that Ben McCollum and Matt Painter are actually pretty similar in the way they look for their transfer portal talent, and in some ways their recruits as well. Both of them are guys who look at traits more than anything else, and then they trust the coaching and the development of themselves and their staff to bring that player in, and the weight training programs and stuff that these guys often get. A guy like McKeever has most likely never seen an Iowa or a Purdue weight training program, and so some Big Ten fans, they might say, well, it's Iowa or Purdue. Is it really all that great? Compared to the rest of the country, yeah. So maybe you don't think it's all that great, being there, but Iowa's got a whole lot of really good wrestlers. So they're doing something pretty well over there with the strength and conditioning program. So I do think that Iowa and Purdue, 2 teams that are betting on the opportunity here to develop McKeever a little bit more. We'll see what happens. I did have one person tell me, quote, no one is working harder to land McKeever than Iowa. So take it for what you want there, but I do think Iowa is a very real possibility in this situation, and I do not think Ben McCollum will be outworked in this type of recruitment. So we'll see what happens there. The next one, not going to spend a whole lot of time on him, but it is noteworthy with a visit coming in for Tyrone Riley. Tyrone Riley from San Francisco. He's a 6'6" slasher type of talent. He'll be visiting Eugene, Oregon this weekend on Friday, April 10th. He's also, to be noted, he's also visiting Louisville, but Oregon is a team that is closer to home for him from Watts, California, played ball up there in San Francisco. He could just keep moving up, go on up there to Oregon and be closer to home. He would be a pseudo depth piece type of deal here for Oregon. I don't think that he would come in and be like your star point guard or anything like that, but I do think he could come in, be a depth piece, and possibly be a starter for you. He has 2 years of eligibility remaining, which does give Dana Altman some excitement there. But overall, this is an Oregon team that they're going to need starters. They're going to need depth pieces. They're going to need a lot of different players. And so sometimes it's easier to fill out those depth. It's harder to fill out those depth pieces than those starter pieces. So if you can go out there and fill out the depth pieces and stuff, go for it, especially if this is a guy that Dana Altman sees something and really likes. All right. 4th one, Riley Allen. Allenspach, I believe is how you pronounce it. Riley Allenspach, he is a senior, going to be a senior, nearly 7 foot, from George Mason, Indiana. Had a Zoom call with him earlier this week. Now, he only played about 25 minutes per game, 13.6 points, 6.1 rebounds, similar to Tyrone Riley here. I don't think that Riley would be, a starter or anything like that for Indiana next season, but the thing that Indiana has going for them here is that Riley is looking to produce at the highest level and does not want to waste his final year in a lesser conference. This is one of the benefits, and this is what I try to tell people. This is one of the benefits of having your conference be recognized as one of the best conferences in the nation. I get it. No Ohio State fan's going to root for Michigan. No Indiana fan's going to root for Purdue. No Michigan fan's going to root for Michigan State. I get it. All right. I'm not asking anybody to root for their rivals. But I do think it's important for people to recognize that when the conference does well and when it is recognized that there's a whole lot of talent in the conference, guys are competitors. Guys don't want to go out and get the easy path. Guys want to go out, play against the best, show others, show themselves that they're as good as they think they are. And it sounds like Riley is one of those guys. I mean, he had a Zoom call reportedly with South Carolina, I think Syracuse, St. Louis, with Josh Schertz was in that as well. So he's got calls from other places as well. But the Big Ten, Indiana is the only Big Ten school reportedly expressing interest in Riley. We'll see if that changes. But if that is the case, I do think that Indiana could lure Riley in possibly. I'm not saying he would commit tomorrow or anything like that, but I do think there's a possibility of him coming on a visit at some point and saying, okay, maybe I'm not a guaranteed starter here, but I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to get in there in that game as most often as I can. And it's this nearly 7-footer for Darren DeVries, which would be excellent for him in a whole lot of ways. All right, last one here. And I kind of mentioned him on the other video that we did. I didn't mention him a whole lot, but I just didn't know how much was real here. Well, it turns out the Notre Dame guard, Marcus Burton, it sounds like it could be very real for Indiana in this situation. Indiana basketball will be hosting Notre Dame transfer guard Marcus Burton this weekend. Sounds like it'll be on Sunday. We'll see. But he is going to Houston on Friday. Point blank, Houston tampered in this situation to get Marcus to go into the portal. I'm not knocking Houston because, like I've said before, everybody does it. It's just some places do it better than others. It is what it is. If somebody else is tampering, you probably should be too. It sucks that it's against the rules and schools do it, but it is what it is. It's what college basketball is right now. So Houston likely tampered in this situation. That's kind of the rumor going around. But Indiana's reputation for lucrative deals and the opportunity to stay home definitely intrigue Marcus. Houston will do everything they can to keep Marcus away from visiting Indiana on Sunday. They're going to do everything they can, try to get him to commit, try to get him not to say he's going, try to get him to, maybe even pay him some money to not go to Indiana. You've heard of paying money for a visit. Have you heard of paying money to not take a visit? Yes, that's real too. That happens as well. A lot of schools like to throw around their money to get people to do what they want them to do. Shocker. But Indiana would be looking to pair Burton with a bigger type of guard. We talked about Stephon Vox, possibly guys like that, who could take away some of the wear and tear with being a primary ball handler at times. I think Marcus Burton would be your primary ball handler most times, but they are going to want to put somebody else on this roster to kind of help him with that here and there. He potentially could have 2 years remaining as well. He's going to be a senior this next season, but with only playing 10 games last season, I think it was a broken ankle that he had, you could see a situation where he possibly is able to get another year of eligibility. So that is what we've got for the players trending toward the Big Ten right now in the transfer portal. We'll do more videos like this. We'll do more videos about the portal. We'll do all kinds of videos. So if you would, segments, stuff like that, if you would, please do like, subscribe.